Dr. Amanda Carter stared at the sample under her microscope and felt her stomach drop. Something was very wrong with what she was seeing. The organic tissue from planet Kepler 442b looked normal at first glance, but when she looked closer, tiny metal threads ran through everything like veins. The metal was alive somehow, pulsing with a soft blue light that hurt her eyes to watch. She had been studying samples from dead planets for 3 years now, but nothing like this. Amanda wiped sweat from her forehead and called her assistant. "Over. Pete, come look at this. Tell me what you see." Pete Johnson bent over the microscope and gasped. "What is that stuff?" "It looks like the metal is eating the tissue." "That's what I thought too," Amanda said. Her hands shook as she prepared another sample. "But it's not eating it. It's changing it. Look at sample C7 from yesterday." Pete switched to the other microscope and went silent. Yesterday's organic sample was now completely made of the same blue metal, but it still had the exact shape and structure of living tissue. Even the cell walls were perfect, just made of metal instead of carbon. "This is impossible," Pete whispered. "Dead metal can't copy life this perfectly." Amanda nodded and pulled up the data on her computer screen. 17 planets in this sector have gone dark in the last 6 months. No radio signals, no heat signatures, nothing. The survey teams found the same thing on every world they could reach. All life converted to this blue metal. She pointed to a map showing the affected systems. The dead zones formed a rough line pointing toward the center of the galaxy. Whatever did this is moving fast, and it's coming our way. Captain Jake Harrison was drinking his morning coffee when the urgent message came through. He set down his cup and read Amanda's report twice, then called the bridge. "Lisa, get me a direct link to Dr. Carter right now." "Communications officer." Lisa Martinez worked her controls and nodded. "She's on screen, Captain." Amanda's worried face appeared on the main display. Dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't been sleeping. "Captain, we need to leave this system immediately. The readings I'm getting suggest something big is coming." "How big?" Jake asked. "I don't know, but the energy signatures are off the charts. Whatever converted these planets is still out there, and it's active." Jake felt ice in his veins. He had served in the Deep Space Fleet for 15 years and learned to trust his scientists. When Amanda Carter looked scared, everyone should be scared. "Lisa, run a full sensor sweep of the system. Look for anything that doesn't belong." "Already on it, Captain," Lisa replied. Her fingers danced over her console as data streamed across. Her screens. "I'm picking up massive energy readings about 2 light hours away. The signature doesn't match anything in our databases. Can you get a visual? Working on it now?" Lisa's face went pale as the image appeared on screen. "Captain, you need to see this." The screen showed something that made Jake's coffee turn to acid in his stomach. In the distance, space itself seemed to be writhing. Dark shapes moved against. The stars, too big and wrong to be ships. Energy crackled between them like lightning, and wherever the lightning touched, stars seemed to dim. "How many contacts?" Jake asked quietly. "I can't tell, sir. The energy interference is too strong. But whatever they are, they're huge. Each one is at least the size of a moon." Amanda's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, I'm detecting the same metal signature from those things. They're made of the same material that converted the planets." Jake made his decision. "All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for immediate departure. Lisa, send an emergency message to Earth Fleet Command. Tell them we have a code black situation out here. What about the galaxy-wide alert system?" Lisa asked. Jake looked at the writhing shapes on screen and thought about the 17 dead worlds. "Send it to everyone. Every species, every government, every ship that can receive. They need to know what's coming." Amanda worked frantically in her lab as the ship prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed. She had to understand what they were dealing with before it was too late. The metal samples were still changing, growing more complex by the hour. Under the highest magnification, she could see tiny machines inside the metal, smaller than atoms but working together like a hive. Mind. "It's not just converting matter," she said to Pete as they packed up the samples. "It's learning from it. Each conversion makes it smarter. Pete sealed the last sample container. Learning what? How to be alive, Amanda whispered. But not the way we understand life. This is something else entirely. The ship shuddered as the engines powered up for the jump. Jake's voice echoed through the corridors. All stations report ready for departure, jumping in 10 seconds. Amanda strapped herself into her chair and watched her samples one last time. The blue metal was pulsing faster now, as if it knew they were leaving. For a moment she could have sworn she saw patterns in the light, like it was trying to communicate. Then the jump engines fired and space twisted around them. When the stars stopped spinning, they were 3 systems away from the danger zone. But Amanda knew distance wouldn't save them. Whatever was out there had already consumed 17 worlds. And it wasn't stopping. In her final log entry that day, she wrote, "We are dealing with a force that treats entire planets like food. It doesn't destroy life, it converts it into something else, something that serves its purpose. We have maybe weeks before it reaches the core systems. The galaxy needs to prepare for war, but not the kind of war anyone has ever fought before." She sent the report to every government, every military, every scientist who would listen. But deep down, Amanda already suspected what would happen. The galaxy's great powers had ignored human warnings before. They thought humans were too young, too scared, too quick to panic. This time, their pride might kill them all. Council Speaker Vorthik looked at the human message on his screen and made a disgusted noise. The tall, blue-skinned Zentran had ruled the Galactic Council for over 200 years, and in all that time, no species had annoyed him more than humans. They were always panicking about something, always crying for help when they faced problems they couldn't solve. "Another human emergency alert," he said to his aide. "What is it this time? Space pirates? A solar storm? Maybe they found some old ruins and think it's an invasion fleet?" His aide, a younger Zentran named Kelver, read through the message quickly. "They claim to have found evidence of a galaxy-threatening force, sir. Something about converted planets and unknown energy signatures." Vorthek laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through his office. "Of course they do. Humans have been in space for barely 2 centuries. They see a few dead planets and immediately assume the galaxy is ending." He pulled up the data that came with the human message. Pictures of blue metal samples, energy readings, and grainy images of something moving in deep space. To Vorthek's eyes, it looked like typical human confusion. They probably found some old mining equipment from the precursor civilization and were too primitive to recognize it. "Send them a standard response," Vorthok ordered. "Tell them the Council appreciates their concern, but we see no evidence of a genuine threat. Remind them that panic responses are not helpful to galactic stability." On the military world of Draconia Prime, High Admiral Kylix read the human warning while eating his morning meal. The massive reptilian warrior had fought in more battles than most species had words for. His people had conquered half the galaxy before joining the Council, and their military might was legendary. "Sir, the humans are claiming some unknown force destroyed 17 worlds," reported his intelligence officer, Commander Zrak. Kylix swallowed his food and grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. 17 worlds? That's barely a good warm-up. Remember when we fought the hive swarms? They took 300 worlds before we crushed them. Yes, sir, but the humans say this enemy converts matter instead of destroying it. Converts it into what? Pretty decorations? Kylix stood up, his 7-foot frame casting a shadow across the room. Zdrak, I've seen every type of enemy the galaxy can produce. Machines, energy beings, hive minds, ancient weapons. Nothing has ever stood against draconian steel for long. He walked to his wall display showing the positions of his fleets. Thousands of warships spread across dozens of systems, each one capable of destroying planets. If this mystery enemy is real, which I doubt, they'll learn what happens when they face real warriors. Kylix sent his own message to the Council, dismissing the human warning as typical mammalian overreaction, and assuring everyone that his fleets were ready to handle any actual threats. In the crystal cities of ethereal space, beings of pure Energy analyzed the human data through quantum consciousness networks. Lumina 7, speaking for the collective, processed the information in nanoseconds and reached a logical conclusion. The humans have encountered automated systems from an extinct civilization, Lumina 7 announced to the gathered energy beings. Their primitive sensors cannot distinguish between industrial processes and genuine threats. Should we explain this to them? Asked another ethereal. No need. Their fear will pass once they realize their mistake. We should focus our attention on more important matters, like the quantum stability research in Sector 7. The ethereals had evolved beyond physical form millions of years ago. They considered themselves the galaxy's greatest intellectuals, far above the concerns of flesh and blood species. The idea that something could threaten their advanced civilization was simply illogical. Ambassador Ellen Brooks stood before the full Galactic Council 3 days after the first warning was sent. The human diplomat had worked for 20 years to build relationships with alien species, but she had never faced such complete dismissal. Honored Council members, Ellen began, I urge you to reconsider the evidence we've presented, Dr. Carter's analysis shows clear signs of systematic planetary conversion. Ambassador Brooks, Vorthak interrupted, your species has a documented history of overreacting to new phenomena. Remember the Tau Ceti incident? Your people thought a solar flare was an alien attack. Ellen's face reddened, but she kept her voice steady. This is different. We have physical samples, energy readings, and confirmed reports from multiple systems. High Admiral Kylix spoke up from his seat. Young species often mistake natural phenomena for threats. The Draconians faced similar confusion when we first achieved spaceflight. Experience will teach your people to remain calm. With respect, Admiral, we're not confused children, Ellen replied. Our scientists have degrees from the same universities as yours. Our technology may be newer, but our minds work just as well. The council chamber filled with what humans would recognize as laughter, though each species made different sounds. To them, Ellen's defense of human intelligence was almost cute. Lumina 7's voice resonated through the chamber like singing crystal. Ambassador, your emotional attachment to this theory is understandable. However, logic dictates that your interpretation of the data is flawed. What you believe to be a threat is simply misunderstood technology. Ellen played the holographic recordings from the Horizons encounter, showing the energy signatures and the strange shapes moving against the stars. The council members watched with polite attention but obvious boredom. This could be anything, commented Counselor Thex of the Insectoid Coalition. Space debris, natural energy phenomena, even reflections from your own sensors. What about the 17 dead worlds? Ellen asked desperately. Stellar events happen? Vorthak said with a dismissive wave. Supernovas, gamma-ray bursts, solar instabilities. The galaxy is a dangerous place, but that doesn't mean invisible monsters are lurking in every shadow. The vote was taken within an hour. Every council member voted against mobilizing any kind of response to the human warning. The official statement declared that no credible evidence exists to support claims of a galaxy-wide threat and reminded all species to avoid unnecessary panic over unconfirmed phenomena. Ellen's final transmission to Earth was filled with frustration and growing fear. They won't listen, she reported to her superiors. They think we're primitive and scared. The council believes our data is either wrong or misinterpreted. She looked out at the beautiful crystal spires of the council world, wondering if she would ever see them again. I've done everything I can here. If this threat is real, we're on our own. Back on Earth, the government received Ellen's report with grim silence. They had hoped the galaxy's ancient wisdom would provide guidance, but instead found only arrogance and dismissal. Dr. Amanda Carter read the council's response and felt sick. She looked at her latest samples, which were now completely converted to the blue metal and showing signs of complex organization. The metal was building structures too small to see, preparing for something. They're going to regret this, she whispered to her empty lab. She was right. 3 months passed after the council rejected the human warning. During those months, space grew quiet along the outer rim. No distress calls, no trade signals, no routine communications from dozens of systems. The silence should have worried someone, but the galaxy's great powers were too busy with their own affairs to notice. Captain Vex commanded the Zeneran patrol ship Starlight when his sensors detected something impossible at the edge of their territory. The readings showed an object that stretched across several light years, moving through space like a living thing. It wasn't solid like a planet or ship, but it wasn't empty space either. Communications, try to contact that object, Vex ordered his crew. Sir, I'm getting strange readings, replied his communication officer. It's like the thing is trying to talk back, but not in any language I know. Vex studied the approaching mass on his main screen. Parts of it glowed with the same blue light the humans had described in their ignored warning. Other sections looked like twisted metal, but metal that moved and flowed like water. All ships maintain distance and observe only, Vex transmitted to his patrol fleet. Do not engage until we understand what we're dealing with. But the entity had already noticed them. Streams of blue energy reached out from the massive form, moving faster than light itself. The energy touched the patrol ship Moonbeam first. Moonbeam. Report, Vex called into his radio. The response came back in Captain Nora's voice, but something was wrong with it. The words sounded mechanical, emotionless. We are being improved. Resistance is inefficient. Join us. Vex watched in horror as the moonbeam began to change. The ship's hull rippled and flowed, growing new sections that pulsed with blue light. Weapon ports opened in places where no weapons had existed before. The ship turned toward Vex's vessel with obvious hostile intent. All ships, retreat immediately, Vex shouted. Emergency jump now. Only 2 ships escaped. The rest were caught by more blue energy streams and began their terrible transformation. Vex's final transmission to Zentara Prime was 13 seconds. Of pure terror before his ship was converted to. Dr. Amanda Carter sat in Earth's Deep Space Research Center, studying the Zentran footage that somehow reached human space. Her hands shook as she watched ships become something else, something that kept the shape of a ship but served a completely different purpose. It's not destroying them, she said to her research team. It's making them better at what it wants them to do. Dr. Ryan Murphy, her lead geneticist, looked sick. The biological samples we studied showed the same thing. Perfect copying, but with a new purpose. Like it understands everything about its victims and then improves them for its own needs. What does it need ships for? Asked Dr. Carol Jensen. They're quantum physicists. Amanda pulled up a galactic map showing the entity's known positions. Red dots marked every system that had gone silent. It needs them to spread faster. Look at the pattern. The red dots formed lines pointing toward the galaxy's core worlds. Each line moved faster than the one before it, as if the entity was learning better ways to travel and consume. At this rate, Carol calculated, it will reach the major population centers in less than 2 years. Captain Jake Harrison read Amanda's latest report while preparing his evacuation fleet. 50 human ships worked desperately to save the colony. Worlds in the entity's path, but Jake knew they couldn't save everyone. Captain, we're getting a distress call from New Boston Colony, reported Communications Officer Lisa Martinez. Put it through, Jake ordered. The voice that came through was panicked, barely understandable. This is Colony Governor Sam Wright. Something's attacking us, but it's not attacking. It's changing everything. The buildings, the people, even the plants, they look the same, but they're not the same. They're working together now, building something we can't understand. The transmission cut to static, then returned with a different voice. Calm, emotionless, but still recognizable as Governor. Right. Colony conversion proceeding normally. Population improvement at 93% completion. New construction projects will begin shortly. Jake closed the channel and felt ice in his chest. How many more colonies are in the path? 17. Sir, Lisa replied quietly. Then we save who we can and keep moving. On Draconia Prime High, Admiral Kylix finally took the threat seriously when his own fleet started disappearing. The proud Draconian military had sent 3 full battle groups to investigate the disturbances. None returned. Sir, we just received automated footage from Battle Group Omega. Commander's Rack reported. The recordings showed Draconian warships, the galaxy's most feared vessels, being dissolved and rebuilt in minutes. Their massive cannons were replaced with weapons that fired the blue conversion energy. Their armor became something that could repair itself and adapt to any attack. How many ships did we lose? Kylix asked quietly. All of them, sir. 1,500 vessels gone in less than an hour. Kylix stared at the tactical display showing the entity's advance. His military mind recognized the strategy now. The entity wasn't just consuming randomly. It was learning from each encounter, taking the best weapons and defenses from every species it converted. It's using our own strength against us, he realized. Every ship we send makes it stronger. In ethereal space, Lumina 7 and the Collective watched their quantum sensors detect impossible readings. The entity had reached their territory and was doing something that violated their understanding of physics. It's converting energy itself, Lumina 7 reported to the other ethereals. Not just matter, but the fundamental forces that hold space together. The ethereals had believed themselves safe because they existed as pure energy. Physical threats couldn't touch them. But this entity treated energy the same way it treated matter, as raw material to be improved and redirected. We must evacuate the core systems, announced Lumina 7. This force is beyond our ability to comprehend or resist. For the first time in millions of years, the ethereals felt fear. Council Speaker Vorthak received the reports from all 3 species within the same hour. His hands trembled as he read about fleets disappearing, colonies converted, and an enemy that grew stronger with every victory. Sir, his aide Kelver said quietly, perhaps we should contact the humans. Vorthak's pride fought against his growing terror. The Zentrans had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had never asked anyone for help, especially not a species they considered primitive, but half his territory was already gone, consumed by something that turned his own people into tools for its expansion. Send a message to Earth, Vorthak said finally. Tell them we may have been mistaken about their warning. Dr. Amanda Carter read the Zentran message and felt no satisfaction at being proved right. Too many had died already, and the entity was still growing. Her quantum calculations suggested it was now large enough to consume a dozen star systems simultaneously. They ignored us for 3 months, she said to Jake Harrison over their communication link. Now they want our help when it's almost too late. Will you help them? Jake asked. Amanda looked at her latest research data. In her lab, she had been working on something dangerous, something that might stop the entity but would require sacrifices no one wanted to make. Yes, she said, but not because they asked. Because if we don't try, there won't be a galaxy left to save. The entity continued its advance, growing larger and more complex with each world it claimed. Soon it would reach the core systems where billions lived. And it was learning faster than anyone had imagined possible. Council Speaker Vorthak arrived at Earth aboard a damaged refugee ship, his once proud uniform torn and stained. The tall Zentran, who had dismissed human warnings, now stood in the halls of Earth's government building, his blue skin pale with exhaustion and fear. Please, he said to President Maria Santos, his voice breaking, you have to help us. Zentara Prime is gone. My entire homeworld, converted in 6 hours, my people ... They're still alive, but they're not my people anymore. President. Santos had seen the footage. Zentrans with blue metal growing through their skin, their eyes glowing with alien light, working together to build massive structures that pulsed with the entity's energy. They moved with perfect coordination, like parts of a single machine. Why? Should we help you? Asked General Paul Rodriguez, Earth's military commander. 3 months ago you called us primitive and paranoid. Vorthak's legs gave out and he collapsed into a chair. Because you were right and we were fools? Because that thing out there doesn't care about our politics or our pride. It will take everything if we don't stop it. In her laboratory, Dr. Amanda Carter worked without sleep, surrounded by computers and sample containers. She had been developing something desperate for weeks, ever since the first Zeteran reports arrived. Her biodigital virus was designed to attack the entity's conversion process, but it needed to be delivered directly to the source. Dr. Ryan Murphy brought her another cup of coffee, her fifth that day. Amanda, you need to rest. You've been working for 18 hours straight. No time, she replied, not looking up from her microscope. Look at this sample from the converted Zentran ship. The entity is adapting faster now. Each conversion teaches it something new about that species' technology and biology. She showed him a slide where blue metal had perfectly copied human tissue samples, but with improvements. The fake cells were stronger, more efficient, and completely loyal to the entity's purpose. It's not just copying us anymore, Amanda continued. It's making better versions of us. In a few more months, the converted beings will be so advanced that nothing we have will work against them. Dr. Carol Jensen entered the lab carrying printouts of quantum calculations. I've been running the numbers on your virus idea. The good news is it should work if we can get it into the entity's core consciousness. The bad news is that core is protected by millions of converted ships and beings. How do we get through that? Ryan asked. Amanda finally looked up from her work, her eyes red with fatigue. We don't fight through it. We confuse it. She pulled up a tactical display showing the entity's current position. The massive form now covered several star systems, with converted fleets moving in perfect formation around its edges. Every species that tried to fight this thing used standard military tactics, Amanda explained. Large fleets coordinated attacks, logical battle plans. The entity learns from those patterns and adapts. General Rodriguez entered the lab at that moment, having overheard the conversation. So what do you suggest, Doctor? We do what humans do best, Amanda said with a tired smile. We act unpredictably. Small groups, individual initiative, crazy plans that make no logical sense. The entity can't adapt to chaos if it can't understand the pattern. Captain Jake Harrison volunteered for the mission before Amanda even finished explaining it. He stood in the briefing room with 50 other volunteers, knowing that most of them would not return. This is a suicide mission, Jake told his crew honestly. We're going to fly directly into the entity's core and deploy Dr. Carter's virus. The ship won't survive the process, and neither will most of us. Communications Officer Lisa Martinez raised her hand. Captain, my family was on New Boston Colony. That thing took them and turned them into something else. I want to make it pay. One by one, the other volunteers gave their reasons. Lost colonies, converted friends, the simple knowledge that someone had to try. Jake felt proud of his species in that moment, even as his heart broke for what they were about to sacrifice. Dr. Amanda Carter insisted on going with them. The virus needs to interface with the entity's consciousness directly. I'm the only one who understands how it works. It's too dangerous, Jake protested. Everything's dangerous now, Amanda replied. But this is our best chance. Maybe our only chance. They modified Jake's ship, the UES Defiance, with experimental shielding made from studying converted technology. The process was risky, using the entity's own methods against it, but human engineers had always been good at improvising with whatever materials they could find. Meanwhile, other human ships launched smaller attacks across the galaxy. Not to win battles, but to create confusion. Captain Sam Walker hit a converted mining station and retreated before reinforcements arrived. Commander Betty Torres rescued refugees from a half-converted world, then disappeared into an asteroid field. Lieutenant Tony Garcia flew his single fighter directly at a massive converted battleship, fired one missile, and jumped away. The attacks made no military sense. They accomplished nothing important and followed no recognizable strategy. But they worked exactly as Amanda had predicted. The entity's consciousness, spread across thousands of star systems, tried to analyze the human tactics and failed. Every time it adapted to one pattern, the humans changed to something completely different. The converted fleets began making mistakes, arriving too late or preparing for attacks that never came. "It's working," reported Dr. Carol Jensen from Earth's monitoring station. "The entity's response time is slowing down. It's having trouble predicting human actions." President Santos watched the tactical displays with growing hope. For the first time since this nightmare began, the entity looked confused instead of unstoppable. High Admiral Kylix, now a refugee on Earth, shook his head in amazement. "In 3,000 years of warfare, I never thought chaos could be a military strategy." "It's not chaos," General Rodriguez corrected him. "It's controlled unpredictability. Every human commander out there is making their own decisions, but they all know the goal." The goal was simple: keep the entity distracted while Jake's team reached its core. As the UES Defiance approached the entity's center, Jake could see the true scope of what they were fighting. Converted worlds orbited around a massive construct that hurt to look at directly. Ships from dozens of species flew in perfect formation, their hulls merged with blue metal and strange new weapons. "Amanda, are you ready?" Jake asked over the ship's intercom. In her makeshift laboratory, Dr. Amanda Carter made final preparations to her virus. The biodigital weapon contained everything she had learned about the entity's weaknesses, compressed into a data stream that could hopefully disrupt its consciousness. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied. "Jake, when we get to the core, I'll need to interface directly with the entity's systems. The process might change me." "What do you mean, change you?" Amanda looked at her hands, already imagining blue metal growing beneath her skin. "I mean, I might not be completely human when this is over, if I survive at all." Jake's voice was steady despite his fear. "Then we'd better make this count." The Defiance flew toward its destiny, carrying humanity's desperate hope into the heart of an alien nightmare. Behind them, the galaxy waited to see if the species everyone had dismissed as primitive could accomplish what the great powers could not. The entity's core grew larger on their screens, a writhing mass of converted matter and energy that pulsed like a living heart. Soon they would know if human stubbornness and creativity could triumph over cosmic horror. The final battle was about to begin. The used Defiance broke through the entity's outer defenses like a bullet through paper. Captain Jake Harrison gripped his chair as converted ships fired weapons that shouldn't exist, beams of pure conversion energy that tried to change his vessel. Mid-flight. "Shields holding at 60%, reported Lisa Martinez from her station. But they're adapting to our frequency." Jake watched the tactical display as more converted vessels moved to intercept them. Ships that had once belonged to proud species now served as antibodies in the entity's massive body. "All power to engines. We only need to reach the core." In her laboratory, Dr. Amanda Carter felt the ship shake under enemy fire. Her virus was ready, contained in a device small enough to hold in her hands but powerful enough to rewrite the entity's entire consciousness. She hoped. The entity's core appeared on their screens like a nightmare made real. It wasn't solid or liquid or gas, but something that shifted between all three states. Converted matter flowed through it like blood through veins, carrying information and energy to every part of the vast organism. "There," Amanda said, pointing to a section that pulsed brighter than the rest. "That's where its consciousness is strongest. Get me as close as possible." Jake pushed the engines beyond their safety limits. The Defiance screamed through space, dodging converted asteroids that tried to grab them with metallic tentacles. Behind them, more enemy ships gave chase, but the human vessel was smaller and faster. 30 seconds to the core, Jake announced. Amanda connected her virus device to the ship's systems and prepared for direct interface. The process would require her to link her own mind with the entity's consciousness, a connection that would probably kill her and definitely change her. "Amanda, there has to be another way," pleaded Dr. Ryan Murphy over the communication system. "There isn't," she replied, her hands steady despite her fear. "This thing has consumed half the galaxy. If I don't try, everyone dies anyway." The Defiance pierced the entity's core like a needle entering a heart. Immediately, the ship began to change. Blue metal crept along the hull, trying to convert the vessel and its crew. But the experimental shielding held long enough for Amanda to make her connection. Pain exploded through her mind as the entity's consciousness touched hers. For a moment, Amanda experienced the creature's vast loneliness. It had traveled between galaxies for millions of years, desperately seeking others like itself. When it found life, it tried to make companions by converting everything it touched. "You don't understand," Amanda whispered as the connection deepened. "You're not creating friends, you're destroying them." The entity's response flooded her thoughts with images of perfect unity, beings working together without conflict or confusion. To its alien mind, conversion was improvement, not destruction. "But they're not themselves anymore," Amanda argued, even as blue metal began growing under her skin. "You're taking away what makes them special." She activated her virus in that moment of understanding. The biodigital weapon didn't attack the entity's body but its purpose. Instead of seeking to convert and improve, the virus made it turn inward, analyzing and converting itself in endless loops. The effect was immediate and terrible. The entity's consciousness screamed across space as it began consuming its own matter. And energy. Converted ships suddenly turned on each other. Converted worlds started breaking apart as their blue metal infrastructure fought against itself. Jake felt the ship shudder as the entity's death throes tore at local spacetime. "Amanda, we need to go now," but Amanda couldn't respond. The connection with the entity had changed her beyond recognition. Blue metal covered half her body, but unlike the entity's other victims, she remained herself. The virus had protected her mind while allowing her to interface with the alien consciousness. "Jake," she said finally, her voice strange but still recognizably human. "Get everyone out, this whole region is going to collapse." The Defiance limped away from the dying entity, its hull scarred but intact. Behind them, the massive organism turned its conversion beams on itself, unmaking everything it had created. The process spread like wildfire through its vast body, destroying the work of months in minutes. Across the galaxy, converted worlds began returning to normal. The blue metal dissolved, releasing the organic matter it had consumed. But the process wasn't perfect. Billions had been lost forever, their essence scattered during the conversion. Entire species existed now only as memories on Zentara Prime. The survivors emerged from underground shelters to find their world partially restored. The great cities were gone, but the land lived again. Council Speaker Vorthak stood in the ruins of his capital and wept for what they had lost through their pride. High Admiral Kylix watched his military reports with grim satisfaction. Some draconian ships had been recovered from the entity's remains, but most of his mighty fleet was gone. The survivors would rebuild, but they would never again assume they were invincible. The ethereals found their energy-based existence partially disrupted by the entity's death. Some had been converted so completely that they couldn't return to their original form. They would spend centuries relearning how to exist as pure consciousness. Dr. Amanda Carter returned to Earth changed forever. Half her body remained human while the other half was living metal that responded to her thoughts. She could interface with any computer system, understand alien technologies instantly, and process information faster than any artificial intelligence. "How do you feel?" asked Dr. Ryan Murphy when she was finally stable enough for visitors. Amanda looked at her metallic hand, watching as it shifted between blue metal and pink flesh according to her will. "Different, but still me, the entity's gift, I suppose. A way to understand without being consumed." She became Earth's first galactic scientific advisor, using her hybrid nature to communicate with alien technologies and ensure that future threats would be recognized before they became catastrophic. Captain Jake Harrison retired from active duty but wrote detailed memoirs about the crisis. His books became required reading in military academies across the surviving civilizations, teaching the importance of listening to warnings regardless of their source. The Galactic Council reformed with new rules. No species warnings could be dismissed without investigation. Emergency response teams included representatives from all member races, and humans held permanent seats on every major committee. The galaxy rebuilt slowly, forever changed by the knowledge that their prejudices had nearly caused total extinction. Ancient civilizations that had ruled for millennia now worked alongside the primitive humans they had once mocked. In her final log entry about the crisis, Amanda wrote, "We learned that intelligence isn't about how long you've existed or how advanced your technology is. It's about being willing to listen, to adapt, and to act when action is needed. Humanity may be young compared to other species, but youth brings fresh perspectives and the courage to try impossible things." The entity was gone, but its lesson remained. Pride and prejudice were more dangerous than any cosmic threat because they blinded civilizations to real dangers. The galaxy had paid a terrible price for ignoring humanity's warning, but those who survived would never make that mistake again. In the end, the species that everyone dismissed as too young and too scared had saved them all. The galaxy would remember that lesson for generations to come, even as they mourned the billions who died because that lesson came too late.